Welcome to the OC. I'm Phil, and this is my co-host Corey, and tonight we are talking about one sick, twisted son of a bitch, and his name is H.H. Holmes. But that's not really his name, is it?
No, like most people, he had to come up with a cooler alias because his original name was not
Herman Webster Mudgett.
Not exactly strike the terror in the hearts of your victims as H.W. Mudgett is coming.
Oh, been fucking Mudgetted again.
Well, he's got the Perky Blinders bowler and everything. I mean, he does look like a Mudgett.
He is a Mudgett, yeah. No, he is quite a character.
Let's summarize for those who don't know.
Yes, tell us who he is.
Or Herbert Webster Mudgett was a serial killer that operated in the late 1800s.
Yeah.
So operated between, let's say when we say operated, we mean operated as a killer. Basically,
yes. As a murderer of humans. Yes.
As a murderer of humans, basically like 1891 till 1894, 95.
He's deemed, though, his claim to fame, from what I've read, is that he is the first serial killer in America.
Yeah, and there's other people that tried to draw comparisons and say, he was Jack the Ripper.
There is, which kind of doesn't make any sense. But
doesn't make any sense at all. But we digress.
Right, we do. So take it away. Take it away, Corey.
This fellow was Herbert Webster Mudgett.
Herman.
He eventually winds up actually going to medical school. Now he starts calling himself doctor, but I was trying to find where he actually legitimately could call himself a doctor, and apparently, you could just call yourself a doctor at one point if you had any degree of.
Yeah, I didn't read anywhere where he actually graduated medical school. He did attend.
No.
But did he graduate? I don't know.
His earliest episode. So this fellow, we know him as a serial killer, but really what he was a massive insurance fraudster.
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy he was known for during his. One of the thoughts is he went to medical school solely so he would have access to cadavers to do insurance fraud.
Well, I think that's where he learned. He was like, "Holy shit!" So cadavers cost money, and then he was like, "This is interesting." Yeah. So
you heard about his roommate, right? His roommate in medical school.
Yeah. No, I don't remember. Who was his roommate in high school? Or in medical school.
So this was 1881. So apparently his classmate, Robin Leacock. So what had happened was while during his medical studies, he'd come across a cadaver that looked remarkably like his bestie friend, Robert Leacock.
Right. Yeah. So he sold it as Robert Leacock.
So he got him to commit insurance fraud. Said, "Hey, tell you what I'm going to do is you take out an insurance policy, leave it to me.
That's right.
And I'll split it with you.
Yeah.
And we're good."
Genius.
So genius. And this was a pattern he repeated. So apparently him and his buddy Robert smuggled this cadaver into Robert's bed and then lit it on fire. Something to it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it even got to a point where they didn't check. There was nothing in place for such, I mean, he was really ahead of his time when it came to the fraud. Anyway.
Insurance fraud and bigamy. He was also big into bigamy too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Lots of bigamy and polygamy. All the other igamies.
No, the igamies. Yeah.
Well, let's start. I couldn't find a lot on his early life. There was some stuff. But one of the things I did find the most interesting. So we have this. He was one of 7 kids, right? So it was a big fucking family. And they're farmers, right? So where do we got here? They were. And he was the middle child. It's always the middle child. You're the middle child.
Hey, you're the eldest child, buddy. So
yeah,
does that make you?
Yeah, I have no idea.
You're the heir and the spare.
There was 4 of you. But he had no history of torturing animals or hurting things. No history of abuse by his parents. In fact, they seem like, by his own admission, pretty much regular folks.
Well, they were devout Methodists, for what it's worth. Now, I don't know if that's particularly strict or not, but
I don't know what that means. But
I'm not sure what that would mean to a parenting style.
But I mean, they seem to be hardworking people, And I assume that he was like, I really don't want to work on a farm. And I can understand that because I have done farm work and it sucks in every respect. We need farmers. God bless you. If you believe in that sort of thing. However, not my bag. Thanks a lot. But yeah, so at the age of 16, he graduates from Phillips Exeter Academy, and then he takes a teaching job at 16. It's fucking young.
Remember, this was late 1800s, right? So you're looking at and he actually got married too around this time.
Yes, 1878. He marries
Clara.
Clara Lovering. Clara Lovering.
Sounds like a prostitute's name.
It probably was. And then shortly thereafter, he enrolls in what is a medical school, right?
Yeah, the University of he went to the he originally he went to the University of Vermont, and then
and then he went
went to University of Michigan's Department of Medicine and Surgery.
Yeah. So I mean, he's no stoop. You know, he's smart enough that he's a smart guy. Like he's able
definitely
to,
low cunning. So apparently he was very so when we think about serial killers, right? Let's put Dexter in our mind.
Yes.
Clever, right?
Yes.
Intelligent. You know, not hard to look at. I mean, this is not somebody who's got.
Yeah, they said he was a real ladies' man. He was a
dapper gentleman.
Fella. Dapper Dan Dan with his little bowler hat and his big mustache. His like free mustache rides here at the fair.
It was the day. It was the day, and he had the long. And now he was again. So 1861. So now what? 20-ish when he's going to university.
18, I think he was.
Yeah.
18-ish. 1882. So anyway, he treated his newlywed wife like shit. That's some of the other things that we read.
His housemates would say he treated her violently.
Yes, that's also true. But in that time, that era, she, I think she ends up just leaving, right?
She moved away, but they never actually got divorced.
No, that's right. That's right. Even though he claimed it, because didn't he remarried
a couple times? Yeah, he actually at one time apparently with this. So he
Here's
eventually,
the bigamy.
Yeah, this is where the bigamy starts to happen, right?
Yeah.
He winds up after this moving to Philadelphia, and gets a job. So there's the New York.
Yeah.
Graduated New York. Right. After he moved to Moores Forks, New York. Basically, this is where some of the talks come that this was his first murder, because apparently there were rumors that he was last seen with a boy that disappeared.
Yeah, and that happened a few times. So he just, there's no confirmation though. That's the only thing, that it was sort of like he was seen with this boy and then he ends up moving afterwards. Like he leaves. It's almost like he's like, oh fuck, I got caught. Oh, shit.
I got caught. Time to mosey on, right? So when we talk about his first murder, there was some debate that whether his first murder was this little boy that disappeared in Moores Fork, who we have no idea who he is, or it was his buddy who he committed the first insurance fraud with.
Yeah, because he disappeared too, right?
He did. So he actually confessed, and you'll see this later on when we talk about, his confessions and how many people actually attributed or accounted, how many people were apparently actually killed by H.H. Holmes.
Right.
He said he killed his buddy.
Yeah.
His buddy was actually died in Watford, Ontario. About 10 years later. So
yeah. He was a bit of a storyteller, from my understanding. This was a bit of a hard case to do because the information's so old.
Not just so old, it's so all over the place. So so you and I have different methods of research. So one of the methods I do is I will go off. By the way, folks, if you're going to do weird stuff like this, make sure you surf anonymously, and you're probably going to throw in a VPN, and you want to do a bunch of stuff because you don't want all this stuff. You don't want to look like a complete weirdo. Not that unless
you're like us, who we do episode after episode. So I mean, anyone looking at our histories are going to be like, well, they must have a fucking podcast or something.
Well, you'd hope, but rather people who like H.H. Holmes also like the Montauk Project.
Oh, well, let's hope so. Like and subscribe.
But trying to track down and piece the information. So I was trying to put that together, a sort of rough timeline of the, the alien event.
Well,
it's all over the place. You watch podcasts, you watch videos and podcasts, right? You must have had a hell of a time.
Yeah, because anyone who's done, and there's not that many who have done this fella. I mean, there is and isn't.
One more.
That's right. One more. I have to wonder where they got most of their information. I mean, there is some information out there, of course, but a lot of it's speculation, right? So the boy in New York, I don't know. Nobody knows because the boy disappeared and then he left town. But I mean, I don't know. It's odd. Did he do it? Who knows?
So this is what we're going to sort of touch on is the idea of what was his first murder. And now,
well, I think it was in Philadelphia. That's just me, because he moves to Philadelphia and he gets a job in a drugstore. And he's like,
before that, he actually worked at an asylum. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
He worked at the Norristown State Hospital.
Oh yeah. It was a keeper.
Yeah,
they called them keepers at that time. Yeah, he was
the guy. The thugs. Yeah. He only worked there for like a couple of days, so apparently it was not probably not for him.
No, he was like, no, this is sick shit here. Ooh. I gotta get out of here.
Notes. I should write down some of these notes though for later.
Yeah.
How to keep people in rooms. Okay, this is
because that'll come in handy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Moved to Philadelphia. So he went to Philadelphia. So moves to Philadelphia and gets a job as a drug clerk.
Yeah, and then a boy dies.
The medicines he had given him. So this is again where it's like, was this you getting the B student from the University of Michigan? You know, he just screwed up and gave you the wrong drugs. Or was this the first of the?
Was it intentional? Yeah, and then he moves again. That makes it look a little bit weird, right? So then he moved to Chicago.
Yeah,
he changed his name.
Got another job. Yes, he's no longer Herbert Mug.
Not only does he move, he changes his name. Doesn't look at all, suspicious.
At all suspicious.
No.
And he would actually do this a fair bit. So we call him H.H. Holmes, which is, I think, his most popular nom de guerre. That's a word to use.
Which is,
but
Henry Howard Holmes. Yeah. And he liked the alliteration, though. He liked that.
I think that's cool. It's,
Hello, I'm Henry Howard Holmes.
Do you think he stayed with a British accent, or do you think it was?
I don't know. I'm because he was Henry Howard Holmes.
Yeah, I don't see again. He's supposed to be like a debonair lady killer. I don't think he sounds like.
No.
Like fair change, Mom.
Fair change. Anybody? Piss pot? Anything? Yeah. So anyway, moves to Chicago.
He gets a job as a drug clerk, and this is where.
Well, that's where he ends up buying the drugstore.
He convinces the widow,
yes,
to sell him the drugstore, and then she disappears.
Yeah, Elizabeth S. Holton. That's the drugstore, right? So Holton Drugstore. And then so she gives him a job. From my notes, he proves to be hardworking, and he eventually buys the store, and that's sort of the. But we're pretty certain he swindles her out of the store in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, or she
because now
disappears, or like
they disappeared,
but she disappears. But this was the
and her husband, right? They both disappear, but then they turn up years later.
Yeah.
Right. So that was the other thing. So, a lot of the stories about what goes on with him, I don't know. It's like, did he do it? There's no doubt he did a bunch of them. He killed a bunch of people, but his early beginnings, I don't think it was sort of like random killing.
Well, and this is where so let's say officially, this is where the beginning is, right? So he's got the store. Now, apparently he's actually managed to run several scams. So this is a guy who would regularly do insurance fraud. He's actually got a fair bit of coin, believe it or not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's done okay for himself.
Well, yeah. I mean, and like they're robbing bodies and shit. Like they're taking bodies that have been buried, right? Like they've done all sorts of weird, and then sometimes reselling the same cadaver.
And reselling the same case. So he would so there's a trade in cadavers, right? So he's made and he's also done lots of scams. So H.H. Holmes was very oily. So
very greasy.
Fraud, he was greasy.
Yeah.
He would go in and he would screw, and it may be big money, maybe little money, but he would keep doing that. And that's why you saw the moved, kept moving.
Change his name.
His name. Right. First indicator, you're changing your name.
Yeah. That's usually scary. You see people do that when they go bankrupt and weird shit like that. They all of a sudden change their names.
So this is where the murder castle starts. Okay, so this is he's got his little nest egg set up with his little store. Apparently, he buys the lot across from it.
Yeah, and he's like, "I'm gonna build a fucking wonderful building."
3-story apart.
All the contractors who fucking do any of the work.
Okay, once we get into some of the other stuff, it'll make a bit more sense.
Yeah.
But apparently, he would constantly shift. So he would get somebody to build one part and shift to somebody else.
And then he would have to.
Yes, because he tended to, first off, he did tend to screw people, but he may have been doing some interesting things in the house that.
Yeah, you have to wonder, so we might as well tell the folks what they called this new building. They're what is deemed as the murder castle.
Yeah.
That's what and that's what it was. But yeah, so he would hire contractors, like you said, and he would fucking stiff most of them, but they were hired in so that nobody really knew what the build was or what they were doing.
All they knew, they were doing their part, and they'd be like, "This is I don't get it." It's like, but you don't get to see the full picture, so it's like, okay, now I need you to build on the other part.
Except for the last guys, like whoever's doing the finish work, they're in there going, "What the fuck is this place? Those sex swings?" There's stripper poles and sex swings everywhere.
He completed construction of the murder castle. Not that anybody officially called it. It's not much later till it's called that. About 1891 is when it's. Now, at this point, he's got a fully functioning murder castle. Phil, do you want to go into some details about it?
Sure.
Do floor by floor? What do you want to do, Phil?
Well, let's do floor by. Well, the first floor was the storefront, right? That was his new drugstore. Fucking beautiful. He's
move in and live like they were have their businesses.
He was a legit businessman, and as far as anyone knew. And then you have the second floor, which consisted of elaborate torture rooms and a giant chute that would send bodies into the basement.
Yeah, the second floor had a maze, like hidden stairwells that would go nowhere. Like you would go up the stairs and it's nowhere.
So it makes you wonder, did he let them go? Was he fucking like it became a game for him? I mean, that's kind of what it looked like.
Super weird because there's things like the fake partitions, right? The walls that would hinge open. You had iron sound, like it says iron plates put into soundproof, which I wouldn't think iron would do that great, but I guess iron. Because the third floor was boring. It was just apartment. Apparently the third floor was apartments.
Well, no, there was acid baths.
Was that on the third? I always thought that was on the. So I thought that was more.
No, that was the third floor.
Basement. I thought that was the basement.
So the third floor was outfitted with chutes, and would drop straight down to the basement where Holmes. No, the basement had acid vats. Sorry, so they were rooms outfitted with chutes.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
And some of them also had gas. So this was the other thing that he would do is he would gas fixtures in the rooms. And
they were airtight. Those rooms were airtight. So you would go into the room and then, you would pump fucking mustard gas or something into the.
Just why do that? Just do carbon monoxide. People die of carbon monoxide poisoning all the time.
Or do nothing and let them suffocate.
That's right. The oxygen starts to light.
Use their own oxygen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So they found, like you said, they found rooms with hinged walls, false partitions. Yeah. So I mean, it was. Who knows what the fuck was going on in there?
So now we got to back up a bit and say they found.
Yeah.
One of the challenges is this was the era of, like you think we're sensational now with journalism.
Oh yeah.
This was that era was that times 10, right? Because it's like you couldn't Google something and find it. You literally found it from the newspaper.
You sure did. You'd have to have a kid in every fucking corner yelling, read all about it.
If it bleeds, it leads, right? And this is where there's been some doubt cast on the Some of the accounts of the Merle cat. Now, there for sure was a basement that had some shady stuff in there, right? They talk about there's talk of the dissection tables and the acid baths.
Yeah. So he would sell, like he would, when he was done doing whatever the fuck he was doing with these bodies. I mean, he was selling the organs as well. So he was selling organs at this point in time.
Yep.
And he was also selling the cadavers. So
he was also selling skeletons. So what he would often do is nowadays when you see skeletons, not that you see skeletons in doctors' offices anymore, but when you did,
you used to,
they were actually skeletons versus plastic.
Didn't they? Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, well, it's scrimshot. It's cleaned up. It's
well, yeah. I mean,
not in our day. Okay, by the way, in our day and age, when we saw them, they were plastic. I'm talking
way back.
Holmes.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
Not.
Yeah, no, that'd be molds and plastic. Yes.
And the murder house. So, what does the murder castle remind you of, Phil? Who had a similar place that maybe not had chutes and vats of acid, but had some shadiness built into their place that,
Well, I mean, John Wayne Gacy.
I was going to say more Jeffrey Epstein, but John Wayne works too.
But John Wayne Gacy had the basement where he buried all the bodies. But yes,
buried them.
You're right, Epstein.
Remember? I didn't even put.
Oh yeah, cameras.
Remember, he had that room. He had stuff wired up. Like it was just like, okay, wait a second here.
Yeah. Now that was more to, get dirt on the people that were using his toys.
But that's the idea, right?
Yeah.
You have this element of, because it's now in his case, it was nefarious, right? Him being able to move into the rooms and dispose of bodies and drop their chutes. But that idea that you've designed this place with a purpose. Again, I'm still not 100% sure what the second floor was designed for, because unless it was a game, it sounds like a horribly inefficient way. Like you're going to randomly release somebody and say, well, if you can get out.
I don't know. And that's sort of how it read and everything I looked at. But at the same token, it's like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Why would you risk someone getting away? Unless there was absolutely no way for them to get away. I mean,
and that's not how his mind worked. I mean, you see the stuff he's done, right? Like this is not a man, although sometime later we'll touch on some things that I don't understand what he was trying to do. It's hard to get in his head. But the second floor, the description of the second floor, I'm wondering if you have, they call it yellow journalism, whatever that means. I think it's like what you see now where everybody blows things up to it's hyperbole to them. Maybe we're just dealing with the fact that he kept screwing contractors.
And he did screw contractors.
It was just like everybody would go off and the next guy would come in and say, you want me to do what now? Okay, fine. Yeah. They just half-assed it. And it happens when you have too many cooks spoil the soup.
Maybe. I mean, who knows? Because this fucking place burns down. Right?
Oh, yeah. Eventually. Yes. Eventually, after some other weirdness happened.
Yeah. Because the police do find out about this place, right? Like when do they?
Yeah, so why don't we'll start going through what Holmes did. So let's talk about his first. I don't want to say documented. The earliest murder that actually has a name associated with it is attributed to him.
Oh, okay. That was what, Julia Smith. Oh no,
Julia and Pearl Connor.
Oh, okay.
So Pearl. Julia and Pearl were mother-daughter.
He was with them. Mm-hmm. They were, he was like, he murdered those two. So he murders the woman that he fucking married. He married her, did he not?
I don't have record of him marrying Julia, but I haven't married him. Like I said, this guy. So back to the whole associated with murders. He would say a lot of these, this murder, I believe he says it was a result of an abortion.
Wait, though, hold on. He was having an affair with this Julia, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so maybe we should take a step back. We're getting
fair enough. Let's back up.
Yeah. So
number two, right? We want to talk about wife number two.
This isn't his wife though. Like does she become his wife? So she has a child. Her husband is like what's his name? Ned Connor. They moved into Holmes's building and began working at the pharmacy jewelry counter. Mm-hmm. So maybe the second floor was indeed apartments.
It said the third floor was apartments. That's what I got from the research I had. And the second
Yeah.
floor just sounds like a bag of crazy, but who knows what the second floor actually was?
Who knows? Maybe there was only a few apartments, but it sounds like it was a pretty big place, right? So, so anyway,
block, apparently.
Yeah. So Holmes starts schnooking this girl that works at his jewelry counter.
Yep.
And I guess Ned finds out. I don't know what exactly happens to poor Ned. I'm assuming he just fucks off.
I suspect he said, I'm out of here.
Yeah, I'm out of here.
Right.
And leaves her and her daughter at the hotel. And yeah, I guess he gets tired of her, right? So he doesn't want the child. He's like, what the fuck? This is not a... I don't like kids. So she disappears. What is it? Christmas Eve in 1891. Yeah, I think so. Isn't that how it goes?
I couldn't find out the exact dates. I've just kept it to years because
well, it was 1891.
Julia and Pearl are murdered.
They both disappear.
Most of the historians agree that these were his earliest victims.
Yeah. And then he blamed it that she had died during an abortion because I believe he had insurance on her as well.
Okay, so apparently he would go off, what is it? And he would have his employees basically do insurance, get insurance policies and make him.
Well, back in those days, yeah. So he would get insurance policies on his employees, on people. Now, without their consent. So this might have been the early days of insurance. I don't know how insurance works. I know that companies can insure their employees. I'm pretty sure in Canada.
Well, and I know there's been a couple made-for-TV movies / books / whatever where people have gone off and got insurance policies on, and it's even a current thing, by the way. Melissa's watching. I think she watches A Current Affair Australia, with those delightful accents. And nice. It was a case of where this woman found out her husband had gotten an insurance policy on her and didn't tell her.
That's kind of weird. I don't know if you can. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not an insurance lawyer. But who knows? I mean, you can insure your pets. Why not?
True. And your car. I mean, why not? Why not your spouse, right?
Why not your spouse? Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of what he was doing, right? He's just so manipulative and smart. Like he sees this as monetary. It's almost like, well, hey, how much money can I make off this?
Yeah,
like it's not about.
He does quite well. He was forefront of insurance fraud, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably setting the gold bar for insurance fraud.
If there are any insurance adjusters out there, I'm curious to know if you're required to look into the insurance fraud committed by H.H. Holmes as any case studies to say, hey, would you have noticed this bozo doing all this insurance fraud?
Yeah, and selling all these bodies. That would be another one. But it was a black market, right?
It was
it was a commodity.
The raider. Like it was not necessarily out on the street going, live in Full Sail, buy a pancreas.
Yeah, no, it's a black market. So, but so other people began to disappear. What's the next one? Emmeline Segrand. Yeah, she began working for him, weirdly enough. And then in 1892, she disappears.
Yep.
In December. Yeah. So the next one I have is Edna Van Tassel.
So I don't have Edna Van Tassel. So I found that there were 9 official victims associated with H.H. Holmes. So 1993, the World's Fair starts, and this is where it would be like a veritable hunting ground for him. Because part of the reason why he set up his murder castle / hotel was he realized you could make a lot of money because the fair was coming to town, renting out rooms to people.
Right. Yeah. And then, killing them, I guess.
Or at least having the option, right? I suspect he preyed mostly on people that wouldn't be missed. So he was a big fan of anybody who was unaccompanied. Although, funny enough, the next set of the victims I've got for him are like 2 sisters. Tell me about Tassel. I didn't read about Tassel. This is
I only know that
Annie Williams. So I'm curious about Tassel.
Edna Van Tassel was someone who basically was, I'm not sure their association, but she was either staying there or she was working there. I can't remember off the top of my head, but he claimed that he had killed her as well and then sold her body.
Okay.
Where we see, like I saw it in different places, so I thought I'd jot it down. But like I said, there's not a lot of concrete, because he was really only convicted of one murder.
One murder with 3 other suspected murders, right?
Yeah, but they didn't convict him.
3 others. Yeah. So, but before we get ahead,
I don't want to get there, but that's what I'm saying. Like, there's not a lot. So, people say there's hundreds of murders. Well,
do you know where that came from?
Probably a newspaper.
Somebody wrote a pulp book in 1940 called Gem of the Prairie, and that line 200
is it
murders.
Really? Here we go. Somebody wrote a fucking book.
Somebody wrote a fucking book, put it out there, and then all of a sudden, H.H. Holmes killed 200 people.
How many times have you said that? How many times? See, someone wrote a book, and then all of a sudden, then Phil's like, "Oh yeah, he said apparently he killed 200 people."
But everybody,
when you start digging into this,
you're like, this convicted of one. Actually, only convicted of one. That's all it's needed. But one murder.
One murder. Yeah. So let's not get there yet. Well, because I have sort of his. Well, you go ahead. You have more murders, I guess.
I don't have a more murder. So aside from World's Fair, 1993, the World's Fair happens. One of the other murders he's associated with that he's officially, I guess, by the people who do this research regularly, they associate, similar to the Jack the Ripper, they associate 9 victims to him.
Yeah.
2 of those victims are Minnie and Nanny Williams. They're sisters. They're murdered in his murder hotel. But at the same time, in 1993, when the World's Fair going on, our good buddy H.H. Holmes meets up with his bestie, Benjamin F. Pitzel.
Yeah, Pitzel. Yeah.
Life insurance policy out on him.
And they do the same thing, right? Like, he's supposed to disappear, and they were buddies for a long time.
Yeah.
The cops described this guy as like, Holmes is like monkey, basically. Holmes
the article talked about that he had like this was almost like a master slave relationship that Ben.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it was like his dog, and so whatever he told him, he would do. And that's. Yeah. So what was his, where did he meet? While working at the Chemical Bank building on Dearborn Street, Holmes met and became close friends with Benjamin Pitzel. Mm-hmm. And then from there, Pitzel helps him to fucking dig up bodies,
He's his right-hand man. This is his
all the dirty shit that has to be done. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So anyway, the district attorney describes Pitzel as Holmes's tool, his creature.
Yeah.
Oh,
sound familiar? Dracula says the same thing about.
Yeah.
And so it's completely the idea that this is somebody under this man's sway. Now, again, he was apparently a very dashing, debonair fellow who could be quite charming. Yeah. And I guess now Benjamin at this point. So before you think Benjamin's this dangerous drifter,
not really.
He was married and had
5 He was married. Yeah. He was
5
just
kids.
Like, he was trying to make a living, probably not a smart man. And then he gets talked into this another insurance scam where he's like, hey, Holmes is like, hey, I got this great idea. We're going to steal a cadaver, pretend it's you, and collect insurance money. And your wife?
Way elaborate how they did it. Way elaborate how they did it. Did you go into details about?
Not a lot, because I was sort of like, why would he do that?
His wife, for the record, was a smart one, said, I think this is a horrible, horrible idea, Benny.
Yeah.
Don't do it, Benny.
Stupid, as our wives sometimes do. Don't be dumb. My wife says that to me all the time. Don't be dumb.
Benny did not listen to his wife.
And he did not listen. See what happens, boys, out there.
There's a lesson here.
YouTube land. Listen to your wife. So Holmes makes him disappear, and then does.
Oh yeah. Well, he doesn't disappear. So this is the thing, right?
Well, okay.
So they come up with this brilliant plan that they're going to go off and do the, where the cadaver, we'll substitute the cadaver, and and then your wife will come identify the body. And Okay, here's what you're going to do. You're going to assume the alias of B.F. Perry.
That's right.
Running a patent office. Okay, you're going to get yourself set up with this. Here, we got some money. We'll get you to buy some furniture, make it all legit.
Yeah, in Canada. Wasn't it in Canada?
I don't know if it was in Canada at this point. I know they eventually wind up in Canada.
Right.
But that's later when he winds up hooking up with his wife number 4 or 3.
Crazy. Yeah.
New York. But so they,
hey,
so what happens
tell me. I'm interested.
So what happens is they go off and, okay, here's the plan. Here's the plan, Benny. You'll set this up. You'll get some business,
Yeah.
This one dude called Smith comes in, sets up a patent, wants to see how things are going. Comes in and, oh my God, finds poor Benny dead. He's burned. He apparently had, I guess, a bottle of something highly flammable explosive next to him while he was lighting a pipe in his chair in his office.
How convenient.
Yeah, how convenient. And the cops suspected something. So this shows how sharp the cops were. They suspected something because he looked relaxed and his stomach was full of chloroform.
Oh, well then.
Oh, well then.
That tells you.
Now we know how it blew up. He gassed himself with chloroform, lit a pipe over an explosive thing, and
while unconscious, lit his pipe.
Exactly, right? So
that sounds like that. What was that one where the guy in the car shot himself and then burned his car?
Oh, yeah. That was our that was back at Princess Di.
That's right.
That's
right. The reporter,
photographer, the photographer, the photojournalist who just
shot
himself twice in the head and then lit his car on fire.
Burn it and then throw the keys somewhere.
That's right. Lost the keys.
Yeah, really elaborate.
So he calls. So he gets Mrs. Patel and her daughter to come and identify the body.
Right.
And then convinces her to let him bring her 3 other kids to meet Ben, who's hiding out somewhere until the heat cools down.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then somehow our good buddy H.H. Holmes gets married to Georgie York at this time, and they screw off to Tirana, of all places.
That's right. Yeah. Well, he murders the kids, right?
It's apparently he murders them in stages. So he murdered the boy Howard. So so apparently he murders the boy Howard and tries to cremate him in a stove. Okay. And he murders the 2 girls in Toronto and buries them in the basement.
Right. That's right. Mm-hmm.
And trying to figure out, why did he murder the kids? Well, okay. So part of it apparently was they were in on it. So this is the thought, that he was covering his tracks.
Yeah, but you still had the wife.
Yeah, and I don't know how she thought this was like, oh, we only have 2 out of the 3 now. I guess we're good. Oh, we're leaving the other 2 kids? Okay.
But what the fuck?
Yeah, they don't really talk about George.
No, and that's the other thing, is that so there's a lot of loose ends for this story.
Well, speaking about loose ends, apparently he planned on dealing with Mrs. Pizzelle and the other daughter.
Right.
He was heading back to actually deal with them before.
Yeah. Now she went to the police, right? So
she got taken into the police because they thought of, they weren't sure what was going on, right? So she actually got interrogated by the police.
Yeah, because this is where, and then I think she breaks down. She, from what I understand, and
they come across the conclusion that she's actually innocent.
Yeah, somehow.
Well,
I mean, she didn't expect her husband to be killed. She's obviously, abetting, a fraud. But
we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Yes.
So, do you want to talk about Marion Hedgepeth?
I don't know anything about Marion Hedgepeth.
You don't know the man known as the Handsome Bandit, the Debonair Bandit, the Derby Kid, or the Montana Bandit?
What happened? Tell me more.
Sometime between the World's Fair debacle and the murdering of Pitzel and whatnot, our good buddy Holmes gets arrested for trying to sell a property he's mortgaged. And apparently that's an offense.
Yes, it is. Yeah, no, I do remember reading about this.
So he goes to jail and he meets somebody in jail and he asks that person, hey, do you happen to know a slick lawyer? In exchange, I'll give you $500 if you help me pull off this scam. If you help me pull off this scam.
And he did.
He told him, the slick lawyer, he said, hey, the slick lawyer is, I have the name somewhere, but the fellow he was talking to was Marion Hedgepeth, which was a train robber. He was apparently he was like a Wild West bandit that happened to be sharing a cell with H.H. Holmes.
Yeah, it's about that time period, right?
Yeah, so he's the one that's like, hey, I'm going to do this insurance fraud, and I need a lawyer to be able to set stuff up, blah, blah, blah. Do you know somebody? Oh, yeah, I do. And, you know, when this all shakes out.
I do remember reading that now that you say that. Yeah, because I don't remember, he didn't really have a big part other than gave him the lawyer's name.
Oh, and his role wasn't done yet. This fellow narcs out H.H. Holmes.
Oh.
About this. Yeah, he's the one. He's the jailhouse informant that narcs out H.H. Holmes and says, well, the fucker was supposed to give me $500 for this insurance.
Oh, and he stiffed him.
And he stiffs them, right? So this starts everything off, right? So all of a sudden the cops are talking. That's why the cops go off. So the Mrs. Pizzelle doesn't go to the cops. The cops come to her and say, okay, wait a second here. Something's shaking. And then she starts saying, well, he's not dead. He's apparently in hiding. And I sent my kids with this nice dude in a bowler, mustache.
Stupid people. It's just stupid people. I'm sorry, but if you're gonna, and that's the problem. If something, what is it? Murphy's Law, right? If something sounds too good to be true, then it often is.
I think Murphy's Law is, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. I don't know if anybody out there.
Confucius says.
Confucius. There we are. You know what? If you said Mark Twain or the Bible, you're probably, or Benjamin Franklin. So if you say the Bible or Benjamin Franklin, it'll probably be good. You're probably correct.
Yeah. Here, Franklin did a lot of coke.
He liked the ladies. Apparently, I was reading something recently about, watching about and not America the movie on Netflix. Actually, watching some podcasts and or listening to some podcasts about the American Revolution. And apparently Ben Franklin, when he was over in Paris, liked the ladies. He was like, "Damn, bro, I like the ladies."
Obviously. But this guy, I mean, I don't know, man. There's a lot of things that just don't add up with him. Like you don't have a lot of concrete anything, like, like for the account for 200 murders.
Not at all. So they did find the remains. So they found the remains of
the little girls.
They did. Kid and the boy. They found the boy stuffed in a like a full jawbone. Now, again, this is late 1800s, so forensics probably were more like, this is a kid's jawbone. We're missing a kid.
What is it?
It's probably their jawbone, right? So let's take that where it is. He gets arrested at this point because they're starting to put pieces together. Apparently there's a detective named Geyser who was investigating Holmes to try and find the missing kids.
That's right.
He's the one who tracks him down.
Yeah, he was actually pretty instrumental, I think, in everything. Yeah.
So do you know why he was held on do you know why? So he was arrested by the Pinkertons in Boston in 1894. Now, do you know why he was held there?
No.
On an outstanding warrant for horse theft.
What?
Yes. And
how did you find all this shit?
Wikipedia is your friend, my friend.
You're just digging deep, man. I couldn't find any of this stuff.
It's all over the place. So it was horse theft, but this Geyser, this detective, this Philadelphia police detective Geyser Frank Geyser was looking for him. And the Pinkertons grabbed him in Boston for this horse theft. And once he was snagged, even late 1800s, apparently they had some kind of communication. So they're like, okay, boom.
Oh, wow. So that's how they ended up catching him.
That's how they got him. And then once they got him, he confessed, actually, to all the murders.
Yeah. And to a bunch that didn't actually happen.
Not even remotely in some cases.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was interesting.
That he was lying about all his murders?
Yeah, lying about, why would you? Doesn't make any sense. Why would you want more murders? Why do you want to be infamous? Is that why? I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but
well, again, if you're going to go big, go big or go home, right?
I guess.
Right.
I mean,
I don't know why.
I guess you'd have to be insane to fully understand, I guess, that theory, right? Like you.
Do you think he was going off and seeking fame in this case?
I think he knew he was probably fucked, right? So he's got the wife who's going to testify against him. Yeah, he knew he was done, but I don't know if he would have. I don't know, because there's no proof in how the bodies. There's no autopsy reports of any of the bodies because he threw them in vats of acid, apparently, or the crematory. So he also owned another property. It was a glass blowing property.
Okay, I didn't hear about this. This.
Yeah, so
he's totally his MO.
Yeah, so he had another.
His assets.
He did, yeah. So what? In a glass blowing factory or a small shop, right? It was glass blowing, whatever. There were furnaces, so they assumed that he would have used those furnaces as a crematorium.
Makes sense, because
it does make sense, but then you kind of go, okay, well, there would be human remnants, right? There'd be bone. Like when you cremate a body, it doesn't fully evaporate. You still have pieces of fragment and bone and.
But remember, this is the late 1800s, and they're like, he confessed. Investigation's closed.
Case closed. He just said, yeah.
Well, this is what they actually only nailed him on one murder. One murder. And he confessed to all these others. Yeah.
Yeah, but they couldn't. Well, the children, yeah, those must have been the suspected. But if they found the bodies, then one would assume.
But they didn't charge him with them. Like he was only and maybe they were like, well, it's overkill. He's getting death for this.
Well, yeah, and maybe, death is death. Nowadays, it's all glamorized, right? Like, oh, you have 9 death sentences and blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, well, back then it was like, okay, you're fucking guilty and we're going to hang you from the neck until you're dead. Which, by the way, was not a good experience for our friend H.H. Holmes.
No.
Do you want me to tell?
Yeah, you go ahead. I think you can certainly do more justice to it than I can.
Yeah. So when they drop him, they hang him. So he's to be hung. Basically, what happens is that you're to be hung from the neck until dead. And in a good hanging, it breaks your neck. In a not so good hanging, you fucking strangled to death. So in our friend H.H. Holmes's case, took 15 minutes for him to die, which is a long, long time. Fair enough.
And nobody intervened. They're like,
nope, you are to hang by a rope until you are dead. It's the law. So I think in the old days they used to pull on your feet or something, but if your neck doesn't break, you could. You can suffer for a long time, and he'd be conscious.
But where the knot is placed, right? So
I guess I don't know.
There's 2 things involved. There's one about the sudden, the long drop and the sudden stop.
Yeah,
so if that's not done properly, that's one thing. But there's also, depending on where they put the knot.
Yeah, the noose.
If it's not properly set around your neck, what happens is it does more of a hanging with the throat, like it actually crushes your throat.
I think it's almost like bad luck too. Like a guy with a big neck, may just have enough muscle on his neck to keep his spine from separating, because that's what you're hoping for, is that the vertebrae separate,
unless it's intentional. Like, unless this thing is, say, hey,
they want you to
suffer. They want you to maybe this guy, I don't know. Like the H.H. Holmes, if the way the news reporting I'm seeing, this is the kind of thing they would want him to suffer. Like,
there would be no question. 15 minutes would be a long time. That would be in a fucking eternity of like, I can't.
But I'm thinking after 5 minutes, you'd be like,
I'm in it.
Watch. You'd like pulling out your pocket watch, going,
yeah, because you're getting just enough air, to.
Constable, get your revolver.
Yeah, there are cases where. People apparently, though, my old man used to say this: if the rope breaks, you're a free man. Or something to that effect.
I heard the same thing, and I also heard.
Did you hear that? Yeah.
They just get new rope.
I would think so. I mean,
like they keep trying. They're like, well, you're not.
It's a pleasantry.
I did hear if you die, like you actually are dead,
Yeah.
And they call it and then say you're not dead. And I think there's been a couple cases of where somebody has not broken their neck, they've asphyxiated, but they cut them down too soon. And they're like, oh, he's dead. Great. And the guy gets back and they're like, damn it. Oh, well, okay. Well, he hung to the neck till dead. I called
him again.
Well, no, I heard in those cases you actually do. I don't know if there's any truth to that. So if you know out there in TV land,
I don't know. My assumption is, the guy in the ground's like with a stick. All right.
What was it? I'm trying to think. I was watching something recently, and it was it How to Be a Tyrant or what was it? Anyway, it was basically they're hanging somebody, somebody who apparently should not have been hanged. They were, a protester sort of thing in some country somewhere, and a woman came down from the audience, and basically because the guy was just hanging there like swinging, and she came over and grabbed it.
Tried to make it.
Did.
In real, like for real?
It was something on Netflix. I want to say, The Tyrant. It was
maybe that's pretty graphic.
They
hung Hussein as well, right? He was hung, which made a martyr out of him in a way. But
wow. But this was hanging. This was the way. It was fairly inexpensive. Again. Now, do you want to touch on some of the weirdness that happened around all of this, like the deaths that happened?
Yeah.
Did you read about any of those?
No, not really. I to be honest with you, I read mostly about him, a lot of his fraud. I mean, that was kind of if anything, this guy is like one of the first fucking major fraudsters. They talk about his murder methods. So those are some of the things that he used to like he and this is himself explaining, there's, basically confessing. He used to like to suffocate his victims using he would also do chloroform. So he'd chloroform his victims.
That's how Benny died.
Yeah.
The chloroform. It was not suspicious at all.
Yeah. So gas fumes, he used to use all sorts of fucking weird shit, trapped in airless vaults, let them suffocate. He also used to use starvation and burning his victims alive. It's fucking weird. But is it true? I mean,
who knows? A lot of it's sensationalized. What I was more referring to is the other deaths around, not how he killed people, but the deaths of other people involved. So, for example, the debonair, what are we talking? What was one of his cool side names? The Derby Kid, old Marion Hedgepeth.
Yeah.
He was pardoned after informing on Holmes.
Okay.
And then was shot and killed by a police officer during a holdup at a Chicago saloon. It was 1909. So within, say, 14
really?
years. Yeah, he was shot to death. One of the more interesting ones was Patrick Killian, the former caretaker of the castle, the murder castle.
Yeah.
So once Holmes went off and all this stuff happened, somebody had bought the castle, had planned on turning it into a tourist attraction.
A museum, yeah.
You come see the acid baths
in
the basement, right?
Jesus Christ.
Exactly. Jesus Christ. What the hell? So the caretaker there, Patrick Killian, wound up committed suicide by strychnine. The note found in his bedroom said, "I could not sleep."
Oh.
His
it burned. When did it burn?
For several months. When did the castle burn down?
Yeah.
The castle itself mysteriously gutted by fire in 1985. So it didn't really last too long past.
In 19 or 18?
Sorry, 1895.
Oh, okay.
Dyslexia, folks.
So it's shortly, he died. When did he die? He died
he was hanged 1896. So it actually did not survive him.
Oh, okay.
It burned to the ground after apparently two men had tried to break in. I don't know.
But they never found who did it. So it was arson. Nope. And so there's just more and more and more, like the more you dig. And I don't like stories like that. I like hard facts. But
it's a time, right? It's the era.
It is the time.
We're dealing with late 1800s. You're lucky.
Yeah, but if you look at Jack the Ripper, you had actual bodies and you had, postmortems. You had, right?
Yeah, but they
some degree
this guy on horse theft. Like he got nabbed because of horse theft. All this other stuff. They're like, oh, and he killed people.
Wait, what? What do you mean?
We were going to hang him for the horse theft, but
yeah.
All right, Ben, we're going to hang him for you instead. Justice.
That's
right.
Justice for all.
But Jack, you're absolutely, no, that's an excellent point, Phil. The Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, it was well documented.
Was well documented. A lot of evidence. Also, way more. The most interesting part about this is the murder castle.
That's pretty fucking elaborate. And there was a lot of money put into that. You know, like this is a 4-story building. You know, I don't know. The pictures, there's no actual pictures of the actual murder castle, right? Like, I mean, inside.
I think there's nothing inside. That's right. I've got
there's the outside,
which I find that is immediately suspicious. First off, cameras existed.
For sure.
And you've got all these renderings. So a lot of the historians who've looked into this said, okay, all this talk about, you know, bizarre rooms and
did it happen?
Chambers,
was there actually?
Was so it's completely out there. But
because, you know, like it's described as a hotel. I don't know. It's one of those folks. It's I'd love to say, holy fuck. I there's no doubt he was a fucking absolute criminal and he killed people for his own financial gain. But was he John Wayne Gacy? Was he that
everybody he killed? So this is a person who saw these deaths as a means to an end, not in an end in themselves, right? He wasn't going off saying, I want to kill people. It's fun.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, and then they make it out like, oh, well, it's, like Saw, like they go to escape and it's like this floor is a torture area. And
exactly. Right. This is, oh my God, this is a horrible place. And,
but there's no police reports of this. So there's no, like that they did say that there were some strange things, I think, but I don't even know where it all comes from. So,
I'm not sure either. I think we're dealing with
like you said, there was a book written.
Gem of the Prairie.
Gem of the Prairie, or Prairie Oyster, whatever you want to call it.
He apparently authored his own autobiography called Holmes' own story.
He did,
apparently. And he said in it, he wrote, I could not help the fact that I was a murderer, no more than the poet could help the inspiration to sing. Oh,
that's cute. That's sweet.
That's sweet. Oh, yeah. No, this was an opportunist, highest order, a fraudster. And once he realized, hey, I could kill people and not feel bad about it. Hey, I can make even more money.
Well, there's no doubt he might have still been emotionally inert. Like he may have indeed been a psychopath in his own right.
Just everything you hear about him. He was charming. He was intelligent.
Yeah.
And he clearly killed people.
Clearly had no conscience, killing children.
So,
I mean,
these are all traits we associate with like that. It's that shallow level of, I guess, charm.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you see it like if you look at, Ted Bundy or any of these other, like, Jesus Christ, it's next level, charm and people trust them and believe in them, and it's like,
but only to a point. So it's shallow level. So this is the challenge, right? Is once it gets to once you get past that, you're like, what do you mean? That's it? Like you already told me that. Like you've already said these things, already done these things. Now it just sounds like you're repeating yourself. Like there's no emotional attachment, no connection being formed. And I think that was our case with Holmes. Is if we had to say, I would say he's a psychopath. Like he's
likely. Yeah, that would be my my feeling too. I mean, you can't. I think the fact that he murders children, which there's still he was never actually convicted of doing.
Yeah, I know.
But I mean, it's a pretty good. Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty good chance that he did.
Let me get this straight. So let's forget Howard for a second, because that's kind of like there's some loose evidence that we rented that cabin to this fellow that looks like the fellow you're looking for, Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
And that kid that you're looking for was with him, but we don't seem to remember him leaving with him. And then the remains are found, and it's like, okay, fine. But you and your new wife rented a house in Toronto.
Yeah.
And the 2 girls that came with you are found buried in the basement.
Right. And that doesn't make like the biggest news story, because like you always say, like blood sells, right? Like
leads, baby.
Yeah. So why wouldn't that, like, that's the unanswered questions of all of this. And
now you're also dealing with multi-jurisdiction. So one of the important parts of this is if we contrast this with Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper happened in London, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Chapel District, one area, boom. This happened. This guy would apparently roam all over the U.S. committing these scams and insurance frauds.
For sure he would.
He murdered poor Benny in Philadelphia, but
his own henchman, for fuck's sakes.
I know, because
poor Benny.
Why? I thought you had your insurance. Like, could you not found a body that looked like him? And you were bringing his wife and daughter to identify him.
Who knows, though? Maybe he murdered Benny because Benny was like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. This is my last hurrah,
After this, never say that. Never say that, FYI. After this last job, I'm out. Okay.
My last job. Good. Yeah, you fucking right it will be.
You're out of this life.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in him. And not that's nobody's fault. That's just me going up
the same way. I thought there'd be more interesting with the murder castle. Like, I thought it would be. Oh man! But everything you read, it's like, so you're relying.
It sounds almost too good. Like, not too good, but like it sounds too far-fetched.
Far-fetched. Yeah, exactly.
And I thought
you don't have actual pictures of this magical second floor. No. You've got newspaper articles talking about, on the second floor, here's an artist rendition of what the second
basement.
Floor looks like. Exactly, the basement. Like, you didn't go down and snap a picture of the friggin' acid tubs and the tables.
There's 400 pictures of this dude with his mustache in different poses.
And his dapper bowler hat.
Bowler hat. I mean, you couldn't maybe take one inside. Show the vats. Maybe the chute systems, which could have just been for laundry.
Exactly, right?
Like hotels have. They have hotel chutes that go to the laundry rooms. That's why it's like, is it sensationalized? America's first serial killer. Could it be just America has to sensationalize everything? And
it's not just America, but they're making it up to be.
Yeah, just a little bit more than what it actually is. Not to say he's not a horrible person. No. Sure is. Terrible.
He deserved his 15 minutes of swinging by his neck.
Oh yeah, he deserved every minute of that.
I would have fed him through a wood chipper feet first.
Yeah.
To write his autobiography.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah. So I'll summarize. Do you want me to summarize?
Yeah, summarize this for us, Mr.
H.H. Holmes, also known as America's first serial killer, as Phil pointed out, built the murder castle during the Chicago World Fair. Was only ever convicted of one whole murder. His henchman and creature, Benjamin F. Pitzel, has been linked to 9 total murders.
9-ish,
right? However, confessed to 24-ish murders, but some of which were still alive or died after he was in jail, or a bunch of other bizarre stuff. So his confessions, and he apparently wrote 3 confessions, by the way, could not be trusted.
Yes.
Got nailed because he got narked out by the.
What was his name?
I gotta pull up. What's another?
Marion.
The handsome bandit, Marion.
The handsome bandit.
The handsome bandit got knocked out by
the handsome bandit.
That's right. I got a picture of the guy too.
Perfect.
Yeah. So got knocked out by him for his insurance scam, which led them to believe he was involved in murder, but he was actually caught because the Pinkertons wanted to hold him for horse theft before he fled the country.
That's shitty luck right there. Your luck ran out.
I know. And he only operated really as a diddly erdler between, what did we say, Phil? 83 and
91 to 94. 18, 91, 94. Yeah. Yep. And then he was hung in 96. So he didn't have a lot of time after he was caught, unfortunately for him. He could have wrote his autobiography, maybe put a few pictures in there.
Well, apparently he did write it. Yeah, he's confessed 3 times.
Yeah, it's adult. Yeah, I don't know. It's just good that he was probably stopped when he was stopped.
Yep, true.
So, you want to know what we're doing for our 3rd season, episode 1?
Okay, yeah, this is episode 13. So, folks, you may notice a pattern. I think we should probably break ending on serial killers. However,
We are.
Season 2 is officially a close with H.H. Holmes.
Yeah.
Phil, don't keep our audience in suspense.
I don't want to do a serial killer.
Good.
I want to do Falcon Lake, the Falcon Lake incident.
Okay.
You know what it is?
Wow.
Have you heard of it?
No.
It is probably one of the most well-documented UFO incidents, and it happened here in Canada. And actually, John was the one who suggested this. So we can thank John. And I looked into it, and there's a lot of very interesting stuff. So it's the Falcon Lake incident.
Falcon Lake. Okay.
You're gonna be like, what the fuck? And then you go, whoa.
I'm excited. I'm excited to look into this because it's always nice. So, again, after having looked into these true crime ones, again,
it's nice to get away from that for a bit.
Yeah.
And,
between this and Richard Ramirez, it's nice to wash that out of your mouth.
Yeah. Well, Ramirez especially. This guy was more of a like it was like eating broccoli.
It's understandable. You could understand why he was doing.
No, he was definitely he was just a crook. For the most part,
murder is a fast way of making a buck,
and he successfully did so until he was caught. And there we are. But yeah, I think it'll be fun, and there's some really cool stuff about it. So, and it is very well documented, like by the Canadians. Us Canadians tend to document stuff pretty good, unless you're me.
You just need, if you scan, you could totally scan your notes with your phone. I'd upload them. I'd add them to mine. We'd upload them to the site, which reminds me, I've got to upload Ramirez. I haven't done that yet.
Oh, there you go. Well, people are missing out. So
no, they're not.
Well,
I'm pretty sure the
like and subscribe.
Website. Like and subscribe. Orderedchaos.ca, folks.
Orderedchaos.ca.
A lot of work goes into that site.
You're damn right it does. Anyway. Thank you very much for watching the Ordered Chaos podcast. I'm your host, Phil, and my co-host, Corey, and we will see you for season 3. Well, pretty soon. Next week, in fact. So take care of yourselves and each other.
Have a good evening, folks.
Is that a Jerry Springer thing? Take care of yourself and each other.
What did Geraldo say? What did Geraldo used to say?
Go fuck yourself. And good night.
And good night. And good night.
There you go. Bye, folks.